I read a total of 13 books in January, so I have a ton of things to talk about, starting off with my statistics. The 13 books added up to a total of 4,302 pages. I listened to 508 minutes of an audiobook. The longest book I read was The Wolf and the Whale, which was 544 pages. I bought 4 books in January and I spent a total of 73p, which I think is pretty good for 4 books. It's because I had a gift card from work and I used that gift card and bought some really cheap books. 10 of the books that I read were backlist titles and 3 were new releases. I read 2 hardcovers, 5 paperbacks, 5 ebooks and 1 audiobook. I read 4 YA and 9 adults. I read from 4 male authors and 9 female authors. And for my star ratings, I read 1 1-star book, 3 2-star books, 2 3-star books, 6 4-star books and 1 5-star book. So I think it was a pretty good reading month. I think my average rating came out to be about 3.1 or 3.2, which is high for me. So January was great. The first book that I read and finished in January was To Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. I did a full review on this book. I will link it up there in the cards. This is a YA thriller from the author of One of Us is Lying. In this book, 2 twins go and stay with their grandmother in a small town where their family is originally from. This town has a history of homecoming queens going missing or being killed. One of the twins wants to find out what has been happening to these homecoming queens. I thought this was a fantastic mystery. I won't talk about it too much right now because I did do a full review, but I gave it 4 stars because I thought it was really gripping. There was a lot going on, there was a lot of small town drama, and there were so many threads to follow, and I thought it was fantastic. I then read The Disappearance at Devil's Rock by Paul Tremblay. This is my second book that I've read by him. The first one was The Cabin at the End of the World, which I loved last year. This one was a bit disappointing. I gave this one 3 stars. This is about a woman whose teenage son goes missing at Devil's Rock and she has to try to find him. And I don't really want to say much more than that because it's kind of a mystery, kind of a little bit paranormal if you look at it that way, but overall I thought it was kind of bland and nothing about it really stood out. I gave it 3 stars because Paul Tremblay's writing style did keep me hooked, but I couldn't really give it any higher because the plot was just lacking. I then read The Wolf and the Whale by Jordanna and Max Brodsky. This was another review copy that was given to me for free in exchange for an honest review, and that is what I'm doing. This is basically set back in pre-colonized America, or Canada rather, and the main character is an Inuit, I think that's how you pronounce it, and their tribe or clan is dying out because all of their young men died. One day strangers arrive and everything kicks off from there. There are massive trigger warnings for this book. There's a lot of talk of rape and assault, so go into this cautiously. I would also say that this book has some LGBT rep in it, so that's a plus. I did really enjoy this one. I'm going to do a full review both on my blog and on BookTube at some point. I gave it 4 stars. The only thing I didn't really like was how much the rape and assault were talked about, because I thought in some scenes it was unnecessary, it went into too much detail, and also the love interest was poor. I didn't like the love interest at all because the main character saw him in visions rape several women, and yet the main character still loved him and got together with him, so I was kind of like, no. I then read Rosewater by Tade Thompson. This is an adult sci-fi book. If you've been following my reading vlogs, you'll know that I hated this book. I gave it 1 star. It's set in futuristic Nigeria. There's an alien biodome and people who live near it are kind of obsessed because it has healing properties. And I really liked the concept, but the execution was poor. There were 3 sex scenes in the first 80 pages that were just pointless. There continued to be a lot of sex scenes that were just basically the main character getting himself off, and I really didn't enjoy that. I think you could tell that a guy wrote this book and there was really no point in these sex scenes. I wanted a sci-fi book, not a really poorly done erotica, and on top of that there was no plot, so 1 star for this one. I then finally finished Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This is another adult sci-fi. This one was much better. It's told in interview style. It's about a person who discovers a giant metal hand in the ground when she's younger, and she goes on to research this and she bases her whole career around it. I really enjoyed this one. I will say that I wish I had listened to it faster because I feel like taking so many breaks in between listening to it meant that I got a bit disconnected from the story, but I still really enjoyed it. It was quite fast paced and I really like the interview style, especially listening to it as an audiobook because I think it worked really well. There was a full cast of characters and I think they did mostly a very good job. I gave this one 4 stars. I then read my favourite book of the year and potentially one of my favourite books that I've read in probably the last 2 or 3 years, and that is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I did a reading vlog on this one and I gushed so much. I gave this one 5 stars. It's an adult fantasy based on Middle Eastern mythology like genies and jinn, various other things, and I loved it so much. If you want to know more, then you can watch the reading vlog, or you can wait around for my review, which I will be posting at some point because I need to talk about this book. This is fantastic. It's about a girl called Nari who basically discovers the world of Jinn, and she gets sucked into court politics and this world that already has so much history that she didn't previously know about. I loved it so much. There was so much going on. The world building was fantastic, although a little bit confusing at first. The characters were phenomenal. So it's told from Nari's point of view primarily, but then it also switches to Ali at some points, and while Ali is a bit of a shitty person, his character growth is brilliant. I really enjoyed reading about both of them, especially Nari. She's just amazing. I can't recommend this book enough, so I'm going to do a full review on it. I gave it 5 stars. Please read this book. The sequel is already out in the US and it's coming out in the UK on the 21st, and I will be reading it straight away. I then read The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. This is an adult contemporary with a bit of sci-fi / magical realism. It's set in a college town and we follow various different characters, but the book starts with one of the characters falling asleep and not waking up again, and this turns into a massive epidemic and the National Guard get involved. Babies start to get affected and it's this whole big thing. I really enjoyed this one. It had quite a diverse cast, although there wasn't much focus on their race or sexualities. I just thought this was a very calm, chilled out science fiction / contemporary about an epidemic, and I really enjoyed it. It did have some Station 11 vibes, and the author of Station 11 actually blurbed this one, so I guess that kind of makes sense. I did really enjoy it, although it's not a favourite book. I thought it was pretty great. And then the next few books are ones that I read for my BooksandLala challenge, and I really freaking hope that this video is up by now because I've been working on it for over a month and I'm getting kind of sick of trying to figure stuff out. So future me, you'd better have put this video up, because otherwise, what the fuck. So if you haven't seen the video, I will link it up in the cards, but basically I challenged myself to read BooksandLala's favourite books of 2018, and I did all of that within a month. So go me, I'm pretty great. I have 3 of the books physically here because the others I read as ebooks. I'm only going to talk about them briefly here because I did do a massive video that took a lot of preparation and control from me about them all, and you can see my thoughts there. So going over them very briefly, I first read Dead Mountain by Donnie Eichar. I gave this one 3 stars. Girls Burn Brighter, which I gave 4 stars. Undead Girl Gang, which I gave 2 stars. The Poet X, which I also gave 2 stars. Girls of Paper and Fire, which I gave 3 stars. And finally, I'm Afraid of Men, which I gave 4 stars. I read the final book for that challenge in February, so I can't count it here. So overall, I would say this was a pretty good reading month. I have to say that I think the BooksandLala challenge that I did contributed to the fact that I read 13 books, because without some motivation, I don't think I would have read as many, especially since I've now read absolutely 0 in February and it's already the 4th. I'm not doing so great this month, but January was fantastic. Thank you so much for watching my video, everyone, and I'll speak to you in my next one. Bye.